Here we go. Okay, hello everybody. We're talking customer service, and we're talking customer service with Joanna Baker-Dowdle, who is my real chat buddy, who Joe runs Strawberry Communications and has written Business and Baby on Board, an amazing book. If you don't have it, you should have it. And Kate Moriarty is the owner of STEM in Balmain, beautiful homeware store, which is stemonline.com.au. And I've put the links to both your sites on the event page. Hi guys. So I'm going to start with Kate, if we can start with you being the retailer. What have you seen, what's your biggest challenge in terms of customer service? And we're going to say since digital sort of started to really make an impact and show sort of some things.
I think it's a multifaceted issue these days. I think that expectations have changed on both sides.
Be done around customer service or
and there's a lot that goes on in the customer sphere these days in store. I think that keeping staff motivated to really provide fantastic customer service is a tricky one because there's always a lot going on and it takes a lot of energy. To give a lot of yourself, to give really good service, takes a lot of energy and a lot of concentration on someone else consistently.
I want to come back to that motivation and the staff one in a sec. Joe, from your perspective as a customer and somebody who works with businesses, so, you know, retail, we have customer service in retail, but we've also got customer service in business and services as well. What have you seen are the biggest challenges for people in customer service in retail or just generally what you observe through biz?
I think one of the things that people have forgotten is that when there's no competition or there's a perception of no competition, they feel that they don't need to offer that level of service anymore. And I see this quite a lot. I live in Tasmania and I do shop online quite a bit. But when I go to one of my local retailers, because I like to support local retailers, because there isn't as much competition, they tend not to make the effort. And so then I, in turn, think, well, why should I make the effort to be coming to see you over somebody else, or why can't I shop from the comfort of my own home? Like, why should I bother? And so I think it needs to be in people's minds about why it is that, why do they make that experience better for customers. So if you're making the effort of going to the store, why should you go to that store in particular? Why should you bother getting out of your car, finding a car park, all of those sorts of things? Because we have so many opportunities now as consumers to not do that. So why is it that we should make the effort, I suppose?
That's one of the biggest things that I try and sort of get across to people, and I think this thing of no competition is so important for us to understand as Australian retailers, because we didn't compete internationally, we didn't have a country across the border 300k away. We've been in an island and worked in an island for a very long time, and I think that concept of not really thinking, well, where else are they going to go? And Tasmania may be the last bastion, Joe, of that, because I can definitely tell you on the mainland, it's been a big challenge, and I think that's and Kate, I'll come back to you in a sec, but I've got this constant question. I was speaking on Curtin Radio last week about customer service, and apparently we started a bit of a hornet's nest. And this whole thing around customer service isn't just what happens face-to-face when that customer's in your store. I think what Joe talked about touched on that very well. It's like, I need to know that I'm going to have a great experience or find great product or have good service before I even come into your store now. Are you finding that people are really authenticating you or calling ahead of time or checking things on your website before they actually come into the store?
They're definitely checking to see whether or not we have product available before they make the effort to come in. And, of course, that first point of contact is our first touch of customer service to them and between us. So that's a really important and critical piece of communication. And it can lead to frustrations if we don't have the product available before they attempt, but at least if they've called ahead of time, then the expectations are addressed early.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, there's definitely a big movement towards doing a lot of research first before you get a new car and actually have a face-to-face meeting with someone.
Yeah, I think this is a really big thing that, and you know, social media is the same. I think it's very people use that as their research tool now before they even think about where to go for shopping. And I think this is the other part I wanted to check with you guys. I will ask you, Kate, to give us. I would like you to tell us about STEM and how you're very international, so you're very aware of what's happening in the world. You bring product in from around the world. You work with your suppliers. But how are you this expectation that you were talking about, and you'll find the same thing too, Joe, especially being in Tasmania, I suppose. This whole thing of, I've seen it on your website, I want to buy it on your website and pick it up in your store, or I'm in your store, can you just deliver it to my house? As if I was buying it from your website, I suppose, because I don't want to carry it home. And you know, I said to you guys, I don't want to have a negative retailer bashing or isn't customer service crap in Australia. I think we should all be having really positive conversations. But I think there's things that people don't even consider is customer service. Customer service is being open pretty much 7 days a week. You know, that is customer service. Having product in stock is customer service. Being able to get product in for people that isn't in store at the moment is customer service, and it's not just that, hi, how are you? I think they're really important things. And so I suppose, Kate, can you tell us some of the things that you do, which I consider you do? You're a great example of a retailer who does the over and above. So some of the things that you've done that people don't experience in other stores that you do for STEM customers.
Look, we try to go over and above, and I guess the biggest thing around customer service is that it's a human transaction. And so if someone is wanting to do something, our job is to make it as easy as possible for them to do that and to have that transaction. And so it's quite a simple equation, really, and if they want to pick it up or have it delivered to someone, that's not really a big stretch for us when we're already set up for online sales and for bricks and mortar together. The two of them, you know, then lead us to be able to do all of those options and alternatives for people really easily. It's not a big stretch. It's really just about thinking ahead and helping the customer with their problem. We're really just problem solvers, and we're really just creating human connection. So if you break it down, it's not that hard to do. There are lots of challenges around it, and there are lots of challenges in the industry at the moment. Supply is not a really easy thing at the moment, especially with product being brought in from overseas. We've seen a lot of movement within our distribution networks, and that can provide frustration both on our end and on the consumer's end. You know, we're seeing a lot of different levels of competition that haven't been there in the past, and that also creates a different level of challenge and issues that weren't there before, perhaps, but ultimately nothing else has changed.
So I think, I'll come back to a challenge, because I think a lot of people who think that they buy something off the internet cheap, they go, woo, that's great, and then they have a problem or they try and follow up, I think is always the ultimate price you pay for cheap. But just from what you were saying before about it being problem solving, and I think Andrew Ma, my first store manager, who taught me so much, he taught me everything basically I know about retail, or I've carried with me for over 20 years in retail. He said to us, you are the problem solvers. The customer's coming in with a problem, not a question, a problem. If you can solve their problem, you'll have them for life. And I think you're one of the, and you know, I know a lot of great retailers, and great retailers really understand that. They understand that customer service is not saying no. Customer service is let me find out, or I'll see what I can do, or this, I don't have this, but I have this. It's a really rounded question. And I think that is that, and that what you said about the human interaction, we get this a lot, right, around social media. I don't understand what am I going to say in social media? It's like, well, what do you say if somebody's in your store? So that we've got this issue where people have forgotten they're talking to another human being, or they've got a human, and this is taking out, you know, some customers also need to really understand that they're not talking to a dumb mute person that's serving them. But I wanted you guys to talk about where manners sits in with customer service, and where, if you've got, I find if you've got good customer service, you've got somebody with good manners or good interpersonal communication. Jo, could you tell me what you think about that? Do you think that there's a link?
Oh, definitely. That link is really important, I think, and it's something that I know you and I have discussed previously, but the lack of manners when it comes to simple interactions, that includes customer service with retailers, but it also includes basic interactions that we have in person and online as well. And it's things like smiling when you see somebody, looking like you're actually happy to see them, following up with a question and actually listening to their answer. These seem pretty basic, but they are lost quite often. And I know if I'm going to go to a store, and obviously as I said earlier, I try to shop locally quite a bit, and I know quite a lot of the retailers, and I love it when they recognise me, and I don't think I'm the only one that does that. I think people like to be made to feel special, and so if they can go the extra mile and remember what my name was, or remember what the occasion that I was buying something for last time, and ask how the recipient liked the gift or something like that, that I think goes beyond what I would expect, but it makes me feel like I've made that connection with them. It makes me want to go there and be an ongoing customer for them. And of course that means that I don't have to go through all those questions about why should I go to you over other people. I've already crossed all of those hurdles. I just go there because I know that I will be able to find what I want. They will help me find what I want if they don't have exactly the right thing. And so it goes to what you were both suggesting earlier about offering other options again, and just listening, basically, listening to what people are asking, listening to the problem that they're outlining, and offering those solutions.
I think this is it's an interesting thing about the listening. Listening is a really hard thing to do, right? When you're trying to, I want to show you that I know what you're talking about, and I want to show you that I know my product. And I think that's one of the hardest things to teach people. I've been doing a lot of customer service training, and Kate, I know you've got great staff, and you do have a fair few staff in the store, but getting people to really understand to smile when somebody walks in, or to smile when you're looking at a new face, is a really, I'm surprised how constantly hard it is for people, and younger people. So I'm going to say Gen Y, Gen X not so much, but Gen Y seem to have this whole, we've got to reprogram them almost. Do you find that, you were saying about motivating staff before, I think that's a really, I think we have people that want to now come into the workforce that go, well, what am I supposed to do? They don't necessarily come and work in a shop because they want to have great customer service. So you finding you're training people from really the ground up now more than maybe you were 5 years ago?
Absolutely. You have to do that. We're also, you know, I think most stores are very busy these days because we have to tackle a lot of issues that weren't necessarily there 5 years ago. So you might be packing and dispatching online orders, you might be receiving stock and pricing it, and it's a juggle all the time, even for myself, to remember to stop and acknowledge the customer and to multitask and to not get fixated just on the task processes that go on all day, every day in store, and to remember the people, because that's ultimately what we're there for. And it can be a really difficult juggle, and not everyone does it as successfully as others. And I think that that is a real challenge for the modern retail environment, because there is just so much more to do every day now too.
So that totally, and I think that it's funny, isn't it? Because it's the same thing. Like I could be in the middle of writing something, or I, you know, into thinking mode, and if the phone rings and I can see that it's a client's number, to stop. I sometimes I just think I just want to finish what I'm doing, but I think that's my customer. I've got to stop what I'm doing because my customer's calling me, as opposed to maybe what you would do if you'd go, it's a no ID, or I don't know who's calling me. And I think we do this, right, because we are so busy and task-driven. I like that you said that a lot, because we're so task-driven that we think, I've got to get this out, I've got to do this. But so I don't know what your secret is, but with your staff, with any of your staff, whenever I've walked in, I am instantly greeted and smiled at and made welcome, and I think that's a huge testament to how the training happens. How much training do you do to your staff or for your staff?
We probably don't do as much formal training as some other places, and I know that we have other retailers on the strip, and certainly some of the bigger retailers with bigger resources have come into our strip, and they do a lot of customer training and service training, but I guess the fact that we all work very closely together all the time means that we are having a conversation about it constantly, a lot more than maybe in a structured sense.
I think this is you know what, Joe touched on shopping local. Balmain's definitely changed in the last, I would even say 5 years, I wouldn't even say 10 years. The retailers that are in there, and the fact that people don't, I suppose a lot more people are working, locals are working. And Joe, you're on the Central Coast before you went to Tasmania. How much local shopping did you do in the Central Coast versus Tasmania? Did you find it was the same sort of experience where you wanted to have that familiarity?
I think the Central Coast was a bit bigger, and and Tasmania is actually set up slightly differently. There's more strips of shops. There aren't big shopping centres, and so there's more of an opportunity, I think, to have that connection with people and not be one of many, I suppose. And I prefer that. It was one of the reasons I like being in Tasmania, because I wanted to feel like I was part of a community, and so I suppose I would be the sort of person that would be seeking out those opportunities. But yes, I did. I lived on the Central Coast for most of my life, and I grew up watching things change and develop as the area grew, and I did notice that things changed as more bigger chains moved in, and it wasn't so much of the small corner store local retailer sort of thing anymore, and so yes, it seems to be a problem everywhere, but I still have those same views where I like to give my custom to local retailers if I can. I think it's the same everywhere. It's like Kate was saying, everybody's busy and busier because you're just adding more and more things, and you're having to be more to more people, I think. And so it's finding that happy medium in between the two.
You've got to be on all the time. I think the other thing too is the local landscape has changed, because I think once upon a time we had people who had a lot of time and would regularly touch base every week, and you had that familiarity, and you didn't have staff changeover, and now you have different staff that work different days, customers that come in when they're more rushed, but they sort of expect the same old service levels, I suppose, but they're not doing the same sort of shopping, or they're more rushed or more demanding. And I think it's been a perfect storm, the whole GFC technology. How are you finding the local conversation changes, Kate, for you guys in Balmain in particular? How are you finding that people are coming into you and saying, well, so and so up the roads, you know, doesn't treat me the same as you do, so I'm coming into you? Or are you finding it's more loyalty to you as a retailer or to you as a suburb of stores? Does that make sense?
I think our customers in our local community is trying to hold on to a sense of community at the moment. The nice thing about Balmain, and the reason that a lot of people like to live in Balmain, is that it is very much a village community, and a lot of the residents here really appreciate that sense of that in their lifestyle, and that's been a hard thing to maintain when we've had a lot of turnover in the retailers on the strip. And there's a lot of concern amongst the community that we might be losing that sense. And I think the really clever retailers that are coming into the strip and are doing really well have really focused on customer service and on getting to know their local clients well and doing all of those things, remembering them, having a trace of what they've purchased in the past and being able to acknowledge that and reflect it and refer to it, and really providing that sense of community and personal attention. And we've seen a couple of players who are bigger retailers but have done that very, very successfully with a tight group of staff who are often local and know the people already. And it's been extremely successful for those people coming in, and those that haven't managed to do that have really fallen by the wayside quite quickly.
Is it because, so this is my other thing I have found, is that when I started in retail more than 20 years ago, you weren't just a shopkeeper, or you weren't somebody who opened a homeware store or a fashion store because you liked fashion. You were somebody who knew their trade either because you were a seamstress or because you were from the fashion industry, or you'd worked for somebody, an established store, and opened your own store. Whereas now I find a lot of retailers or shopkeepers are people who have almost started a shop because they needed a business or a job. Are you finding that? So how old is STEM? Sorry, Kate, I should have asked you this in the beginning.
We're 12 and a half years old.
Yeah, so this is another, I mean, your longevity is admirable. So in 12 and a half years, have you seen that type of retailer come and go and that different sort of profile, even within the strip?
Not as much within our strip. I think that the rents are a fairly high barrier to that. It's a much greater, riskier proposition to do that. We've seen it a little bit, and those that do come in with that attitude often don't gain the longevity. It's, you know, retail is not for the faint-hearted, and it is 24/7. It doesn't turn off. So if you thought that you were going to go from a corporate job where you had responsibility for maybe one or two areas of the business, and you had, you know, weekends and holidays and everything was rosy, and that you could start your own small business, and I think that that's true for most small businesses, that it was going to be a breeze and you were going to make lots of money doing it and change your lifestyle, then you probably got quite a rude shock.
Yes. Not only because you start your own business, right, but because exactly, I think this is the other thing. I find this a lot. I get told this a lot, is that people say, my staff don't want to work Saturdays. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like, you're in a sales job. It's the same. I mean, Joe and I are both self-employed as well. We're not retailers, but we're self-employed. And if somebody needs to talk to us at Saturday 5 o'clock because it's urgent, then we talk to the client Saturday 5 o'clock. Or if we need to work when we need to work, that's sort of, I suppose, the rules of engagement for us. But I find a lot of staff in store, or they complain about working weekends. Like, I would have been, we used to work, when I was at Gracie's, we used to work through like a whole weekend and then have 3 days off. And you didn't even think about it. And when somebody said, oh, I'm getting married on that day, it's like, well, I have to come to the reception. I can't come to the church because I'm working. Like, it was never, you know, oh, I'll just ask for the day off because Saturday's a trading day. And then with my own shop and business, it was definitely a 7-day-a-weeker. So, you know, I think that's the other part of it too, is that whole, you know, staff members. So I'm going to ask you guys for a tip, a customer service tip from your perspective. Mine is definitely about really understanding when you're serving the customer, it's not about you. If they're going off at you, it's not about you. And if you've had a bad day and your car broke down and you're stressed out, it's also not about you. And the customer doesn't need to know that. And the customer just needs to know that you're there for them. You can answer their questions. What you can't answer, you can find out. And you want them to come back because, exactly as you said, we want them to be addicted to you and to the experience. So don't you think? Like, I just think that whole addiction, let them become addicted to you. So I used to say crack. Let the customer think you're their crack. So I'm going to say chocolate now after Easter. You know, people love chocolate, right? It makes me feel good. So as you were saying, Joe, I'm going to come into your store. It makes me feel good because I know you're going to make me feel good about myself, or you're going to help me fix my problems or whatever. So, Miss Joe, what would be your customer service tip if you were giving somebody a tip?
I think mine would be help them find the solution. Be the person that offers that solution for them, and maybe offer a range of solutions. It doesn't just have to be one. If options are always good.
Perfect. Because sometimes they don't know what the options are, right? I think we
That's right.
put ourselves into a box going, she wants the green one, but maybe she just wants that product and doesn't really care about the green, or maybe she just wants a green thing and it's not so important about the product. Yep.
Yeah, and,
cool.
And they just don't know what's available, and that's where your expertise as a retailer comes into it. You know what's available, and so you can show.
Kate, what would be your customer service tip?
I think that for anyone in customer service, as you were saying, it's a really important thing to be able to put aside everything else that's going on in your life and be able to bring to the floor and to the customer your best self through every transaction. And it's a challenging thing to do. I don't pretend for a second that we get that right every time. We certainly try, and you know, I find even myself, if it's a really busy day, it's a really hard thing sometimes to step back and take a deep breath and just remember what it is that you need to focus on, which is that customer at that time.
Mm-hmm. Here she is.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. My computer just crashed. Bad customer service, Telstra, bad.
I'm going to get you started on that one.
Yeah.
You guys just, sorry about that, everybody. I left you in good hands. Good God, sorry. And I'm just sweating bullets. Okay, sorry. Apologies. I did, it's thrown me out. So your tip, Kate, I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask you to repeat it just so I know what you said. I'm sorry.
Mine was just about remembering to leave all of your own stuff behind when the customer's in front of you, and to try to remember to focus solely on them. And I think that that is a difficult challenge, particularly in these times when we all have very busy days and a lot going on. And I think that that is the greatest challenge for us every day in store. And on the flip side, that manners and politeness is a two-way street.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think this is a really big thing, and I know whenever I talk about customer service, this is one of the things that I always sort of bring up, and it is really that in Australia we don't have a very good service culture. We don't have a culture that respects good service. We expect it, but we don't respect it. And I think to really understand that somebody is giving you good service because it's their job, but they're giving you good service, and that is a great standard. I suppose we understand it more in a restaurant where you get the maitre d' coming, or the owner of the business, versus the waiter and the waitress. And I think this is another thing we need to do as an industry to have this conversation, is that customer service is a profession. It's not just a job that you do Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday. And I think this is the thing that people really have to understand. If you are having a crappy, bad day, don't take it out on the person on the other end of the phone or on the other end of the counter. You go and have that crappy day where you need to have it, and just take time out and really understand that somebody's sort of, you know, taking their time to do their job. It is their job, but to sort of help you. And I think that's always my challenge for myself when I'm serving a customer that's difficult, whether it be in a retail environment or a service environment. And one thing I try and get across for training is, when you do have that bad customer, make it your own personal challenge to flip them around and make them smile or make them actually feel better about themselves, because then you take that focus off, they're being rude to me. You know, they're being rude to me. It's not personal, but I agree it's not appropriate. And I think this is an interesting, I think we need to have that conversation as retailers so that our customers understand where we come from as well. And it is, you know, it's not, when you do, I find I dissociate myself from that personal. And the other thing I wanted to touch on, guys, was customer service through social media. I find a lot of people don't really, they get offended when somebody leaves a comment or a bad experience or something that needs to be fixed. And I think instead of getting offended, it's obviously happened rightly or wrongly. You know, they also might be incorrect. But I think it's a great way to use that feedback. You don't have to pay for an expensive survey or a focus group. It's a great thing to use to really build your business or fix something in your business or have the conversation with that customer. Maybe all your customers need to know that. Don't worry, Kate, we can't hear it. So do you guys agree? Do you see that in social media a lot, Jo, where people handle that sort of feedback badly?
Oh, yes, and their first instinct is to delete it, when actually it can help your cause even further if you don't delete it and you respond appropriately and you offer that solution. I know, for instance, if I'm looking for a local restaurant and I look on something like TripAdvisor or something like that, if I can see that there's a whole heap of only good reviews, I start to get a little bit suspicious, because I think, oh, does that mean that they're screening their reviews? And so if I can see that they've left in a few comments and responded to those comments and I'm happy with those responses, then I'm far more likely to go to that restaurant or to recommend that restaurant, because I feel like they're real and I feel like they're willing to have a conversation with their customers.
And I think that's a great point, actually, because it's real life, isn't it? You're never going to make everybody happy.
No.
You know, the whole world's not your customer base. What do you think? What do you think, Kate, from experience or observation of what you've seen with people leaving comments?
We're really lucky. Mostly we've only had positive comments left behind, and we work really hard to try and have that be the majority circumstance for us. But, you know, I guess I've also seen it where people have kind of deliberately left much nastier and more malicious comments than were necessary as a way of getting to that business, and it might not be a fair reflection of what actually happened. And I guess that's something that has come up in conversation with businesses, particularly around sites like TripAdvisor. But it is definitely an opportunity to have a conversation with your customers and to try and rectify a situation that maybe didn't go as well as it could have, and to show that you are genuine about your business and trying to provide the best customer service that you can.
I think that is the best advice. I think to take it as a way to show your skill is a really interesting one. I had this is one that we'll all leave our final thoughts. This is my final thought. I want to share this with you. So Social Media Women, I organise that every month. And every month we have a physical meetup. We have a speaker, and I post the, tips and tricks or comments or, I just post through the whole event. I post them on the Social Media Women Facebook page, which auto posts across to Twitter. And so in 4 years, I've had 2 or 3 people say, oh my God, you're polluting my feed with your stuff. Why are you posting? And, the first time I thought it was a joke the first time that somebody left that, because I just thought, what? It's an event. It says this is an event. This is a networking group. We meet once a month. You've liked the page, so you must have checked it. So the first time I wrote something like, as you know, we're a monthly meetup, and I like to share what people are hearing in the room with people who couldn't be in the room. And invariably their reply is quite hostile and quite rude, which surprises me as well. And my final comment to them is, well, this is what the page does every month. If you don't like it, you are totally free to unlike the page. Have a great day.
Exactly.
And I think, you know, it's not my task to convert them to understand why I do it. If they don't get it, they don't get it. But it's also not, I don't want that conversation to be happening on the page with people who enjoy the community. And I think sometimes, you know, the solution is to disconnect. And sometimes, and you know, and then you have people going, good on you, and can't believe that comment, and it sort of builds a community around it. And I think feedback and communication is key, because it helps me also understand what people may be seeing. So, you know, I put, watch out guys, here come the post from tonight as a precursor now, you know, that sort of thing. So I just think, you know, to really be open to the conversation, and as Kate said, don't think that it's a one-way conversation, or don't think it only happens, customer service is something that happens at a certain stage or only in one part of the business. What's your final comment, Miss Kate?
I guess mine is that customer service is a very, very big conversation going on, particularly in retail at the moment, and that it is ultimately what we are all there to provide. It is the core function of our businesses, really. We tend to approach our businesses saying this is what we sell, and maybe we need to rethink it around this is who we are, what we provide, and how we are going to solve your problems today.
Exactly. Perfect. Perfect. And Jo, the final word is with you.
Oh, that's no pressure.
That's why I want to go last.
I think I agree with what both of you are saying. It is a big conversation, but I think the key there is that it's a conversation. It's something that's ongoing, and it's something that we need to be willing to have with each other. If there is a problem, then ask how you can solve that problem. There's nothing wrong with saying, so how can I help you better? It's not a bad thing to be doing that, and equally it's not a bad thing to be acknowledging when people are telling you you're doing a really good job. So you should be shouting that from the rooftops as well. So I think you need to be celebrating as well as commiserating, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think this is, you know, so I wanted Kate to join us for the Hangout, and the first thing she said was, I'd like to invite one of my neighbour retailers to be part of it as well. And that to me just, I mean, that's why we know each other, obviously, Kate, but that to me just shows somebody who really is open to having a conversation and really understands that business is about collaboration. And I think that your network and that ability to be part of a group of people doing a great job, you're not on your own in your four walls, even though sometimes it does feel like that. So connect with these beautiful women. Ask questions. There's Q&A on the page if you want to post Q&A. We're going to do real chats more regularly, and we're going to invite some guests along. So if you wanted to have a chat about something or a topic, we definitely will. Jo, I know we're going to do a PR one because we get lots of questions, and we're going to do it as part of a Social Media Women monthly meetup, which will be very exciting and quite experimental. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Jo. Thanks, Kate. I know you guys are really busy. It's Monday morning. But thank you for sharing, and thanks for supporting a really cool community.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. And